All right, so we're diving into Atomic Habits by James Clear, and you've sent over a pretty big stack this time.
Yeah.
Excerpts from the book itself, its Amazon sales page, even some reviews from readers. So clearly, you're ready to tackle these habits, maybe even like revamp your entire routine.
Absolutely.
So let's see what we can find.
Yeah, it's interesting to see this combination of materials. We get to see what Clear says, but also like how readers have actually responded to it and used it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that kind of grabbed me right away from the book excerpts was this idea of tiny gains,
Yeah.
those like 1% improvements that you make each day.
It's so easy to dismiss those, right? Like, who
Yeah.
cares about 1%? But Clear makes this really compelling argument that they can, like, snowball into these huge results.
Right.
He says that, like, being 1% better each day for a year, you end up, like, 38 times better by the end of the year.
Wow.
And I don't know about you, but I would take a 38 times improvement in pretty much anything.
Yeah, that's a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think it's not just about getting better, though, right? It's also about, like, avoiding that slow slide in the other direction.
Oh, absolutely.
Because 1% worse each day, that adds up too.
Yeah,
Just not in a way that we really want.
he uses this really cool analogy of a plane and its heading.
Okay.
If you adjust a plane's course by just a couple of degrees, you could end up hundreds of miles off course.
Wow.
And so it's the same with like our daily choices.
Right.
They're not just these isolated actions. They're actually like setting a trajectory for us.
That's a really good way to think about it. I like that analogy a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this book has become so popular.
Yeah.
But you know what? I got to be honest. Sometimes those small changes feel really hard to stick with.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've definitely struggled with that.
And that's where this idea of systems comes in.
Okay.
So Clear argues that instead of relying on willpower, which, let's face it, can be pretty unreliable.
Yeah, for sure. You need to build systems that actually make good habits easier and bad habits harder.
Okay.
He has this great line. He says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems."
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's not about me being like not good enough at resisting that extra cookie. It's that like my system for snacking needs to be redesigned.
Exactly.
Okay, that's actually kind of a relief.
Yeah.
But where do you even begin to build a system for something like that?
And that's where his 4 laws of behavior change come in.
Okay.
This is like a core concept in the book.
Okay.
And I think it's worth spending some time talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I remember, like skimming through it, the 4 laws are about making good habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
You got it.
Yeah.
And then to break a bad habit, you basically do the opposite.
Right.
You make them invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying.
Gotcha.
It sounds pretty simple, but there's real depth to like how you apply them
Right.
strategically.
I can already see that this is way more than just like try harder.
Yeah.
So let's say I wanted to drink more water each day,
Okay.
which is something I am terrible at.
Mm-hmm.
How would I use those laws to make that happen?
Well, to make it obvious, you could keep a full water bottle like right there on your desk at all times.
Okay.
To make it attractive, maybe you get like a really nice water bottle that you just enjoy looking at.
Okay.
To make it easy, you could set reminders on your phone to drink throughout the day.
Okay.
And to make it satisfying, you could track your water intake and, give yourself some kind of reward when you hit your goal
Right. Right.
for the day.
Okay. I can see how those little tweaks could really add up.
Yeah.
I'm also kind of intrigued by this whole idea of identity-based habits that he talks about.
Yes.
It's like the idea that you need to believe you are the kind of person who does this habit,
Right.
not just someone who's like forcing themselves to do it.
I think that's a really powerful concept. It's about changing your self-image,
Yeah.
aligning your actions with the person that you want to become.
Right. So it's not just about like checking boxes on a to-do list. It's about like who you're becoming in the process.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But how do you make that shift then from like trying to being?
Well, Clear suggests this 2-step process. First, you decide the type of person you want to be,
Okay.
and then you prove it to yourself with small wins.
Okay.
So each time you choose the water over the soda,
Mhm.
you're reinforcing that identity of being a healthy person.
Right. Like you're building a case
Oh,
for the new,
yeah.
one small choice at a time.
Yeah.
But what about when those choices feel really, really hard?
Hmm.
I know there are some days where I would rather have the soda and eat the cookie.
Yes, I've been there.
And that's where some of those more practical techniques that he talks about in the book come in.
Absolutely, and we have a lot to unpack there.
Okay, well, let's dive into some of those then.
Okay, so one that really stood out to me is this idea of habit stacking.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
Sure.
It's about linking a new habit to one that you're already doing.
Exactly.
So, like, after I brush my teeth, I'll do 10 push-ups.
Yeah, you're basically using the momentum of an existing routine to your advantage.
Right.
But there's actually a little bit more to it than that.
Okay.
Claire says you need to be really specific about like the when and the where to make the link stronger.
Okay, so instead of just like, after brushing my teeth, it would be like, after I put down my toothbrush in the upstairs bathroom, I'll do 10 push-ups right there.
Exactly.
Got it.
The more specific the trigger, the more automatic the new habit will become.
Okay.
There are also like different ways to stack habits too.
Oh, interesting.
So you can stack onto the end of an existing routine. You can kind of insert the new habit in the middle of one.
Okay.
Or you can even use a habit you want to do less of as the trigger for one you want to do more of.
Wait, what? Use a bad habit to trigger a good one. How does that even work?
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive, but it can be really effective.
Okay.
So let's say you tend to mindlessly scroll social media first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Guilty.
You could use that urge to check your phone as the trigger for like a 5-minute meditation instead.
Oh, okay. So, like, the moment I reach for my phone, instead of opening Instagram, I open, like, a meditation app.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're, like, hijacking the bad habit.
You're using that momentum
Right.
to your advantage.
Clever. I like it.
Yeah. And Clear also talks about this thing called temptation bundling, which is kind of the flip side of that.
Temptation bundling. That sounds intriguing
Yeah.
and maybe a little dangerous.
It can be if you're not careful, but the basic idea is that you pair something you need to do but you don't necessarily enjoy
Oh, yeah.
with something that you actually want to do.
Got it.
Like only letting yourself watch your favorite show while you're on the treadmill.
Oh, I actually do something similar to that.
Really?
Yeah, I only let myself listen to certain podcasts when I'm cleaning the house.
There you go.
It definitely makes it more bearable.
You're already using the principle.
There you go.
It works because you're basically tying something enjoyable to something necessary, so it makes that task that you maybe don't like as much more motivating.
Right. So we've got habit stacking, temptation bundling.
Uh-huh.
What other kind of tricks does he have?
Oh, he's got a lot.
Okay.
One of the more classic ones, though, that he talks about is habit tracking.
Yeah, habit tracking.
Yeah.
I go through phases with that one.
Mm.
Sometimes I'm really good about marking things off on a calendar or in an app.
Yeah.
And other times, well, those streaks don't always last.
It happens.
Yeah.
But Clear argues that habit tracking isn't just about, like, accountability. It can actually boost your motivation and make the habit stickier.
Really? Because sometimes I feel like seeing all those empty boxes on my habit tracker just makes me feel worse.
Yeah. That's where using the right kind of tracking comes in.
Oh.
So Clear suggests that you focus on not breaking the chain, like even celebrating the smallest wins,
Mhm.
because seeing a string of successful days, that can be really motivating.
Yeah.
And it also helps you see patterns,
Right.
so you can kind of adjust your approach if you need to.
So it's less about judgment and more about like just data collection and
Exactly.
positive reinforcement.
And it can be like as simple or as elaborate as you like.
Right.
Some people love using spreadsheets. Some people just use a simple bullet journal.
Right. Whatever works for you.
The key is to find a method that works for you and that you're going to actually stick with.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting to me is that a lot of these techniques are really just like playing mind games with ourselves.
Yeah.
We're kind of like outsmarting our own resistance by making the good stuff easier and the bad stuff a little bit harder.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Clear talks about environment design as being a key element of this.
Right.
Yeah.
We tend to underestimate how much our surroundings actually influence our behavior. Yeah, like if I leave a bowl of candy on the counter, I'm way more likely to eat it
Yeah, of course.
than if it's tucked away in a cupboard somewhere.
It's right there in front of you.
Exactly, it's calling your name.
Yeah. And I'm much less likely to even think about it if I don't see it.
Exactly. It's about making those cues for good habits more prominent
Mm-hmm.
and the cues for bad habits less visible.
Got it.
He shares this great example of a woman who was trying to break her late-night snacking habit.
Okay, so she was trying to break this late-night snacking habit.
Yeah.
How did she use environment design to do that?
So she did something really simple but clever.
Okay.
Every night before bed, she would put all of the snacks away
Yeah.
in a cupboard, out of sight,
Right.
but then she would also unplug her microwave.
unplug the microwave.
Yeah.
Okay, that's commitment.
Right.
But I can see how it would work.
Yeah.
It's like an extra hurdle.
It's just a little bit of friction to
Yeah.
make you stop and think.
Exactly. And usually by the time she went through the effort of plugging it back in, the craving had passed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's such a good illustration of how even small changes in our environment can really have a big impact.
Yeah, it's not about relying on willpower alone.
Right.
It's about setting yourself up for success.
I like that.
Yeah.
So Clear talks about a lot of these real-world examples in the book.
Oh, yeah, tons.
Stories of people who have used these techniques to achieve some pretty remarkable results.
Yeah, and in all different areas of life.
Yeah, I bet. Were there any that particularly stood out to you?
One that comes to mind is the story about Jerry Seinfeld
Oh, okay.
and his productivity secret.
Seinfeld's productivity secret.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so Seinfeld, he was this up-and-coming comedian,
Yeah.
and he wanted to improve his joke writing.
Right.
So what he did was he got this big calendar,
Okay.
and he hung it on his wall.
Ugh.
And each day that he wrote new material, he would mark it on the calendar with a big red X. And his goal wasn't to write a certain number of jokes each day.
Right.
It was just to not break the chain of X's.
Oh, so it's all about that visual reminder.
Yeah.
You're not even focused on the task itself. You're focused on just like maintaining that streak.
Yeah, like each X becomes like a small victory, this
Right.
representation of your commitment.
That's cool. And it kind of plays into what we were talking about before with the habit tracking.
Absolutely.
Like it makes you want to keep that momentum going.
It's really motivating.
Yeah. It's funny how such a simple thing can actually be so powerful.
It is.
So did any of the reviews that you saw talk about trying out techniques like this?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There was one that I thought was really interesting where someone was trying to reduce their social media use,
Okay.
and they actually had their friend change all their passwords.
Oh, okay. That's taking it to another level.
Right.
But I could see how it would be effective.
Yeah, sometimes you need to take those drastic measures,
Yeah.
especially when it's a really ingrained habit.
For sure.
It's like you're creating this external barrier
Right.
because we don't always make rational decisions, especially when it comes to habits.
Yeah, totally. I think this deep dive has given me so much to think about.
Me too.
It's like Atomic Habits isn't just a book of tips.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole new way of looking at self-improvement.
Yeah, it's a framework.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one big takeaway for our listener, what would it be?
For me, I think it's that focus on small changes,
Okay.
compounded over time.
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up in wanting like these big overnight transformations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's just not how real change happens.
Yeah, it's about consistency,
Yeah.
not perfection.
Exactly.
And that's actually kind of encouraging because it means that like anyone can achieve amazing things.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have to have this superhuman willpower.
Right.
It's just about showing up and doing the work, even when it's hard.
Even when it feels insignificant,
Yeah,
it all adds up.
that's the beauty of it all.
It is.
So, for our listener who is now feeling super inspired to go out and make some changes,
Yes.
where would you recommend that they start?
I would say start small. Pick one tiny habit to build or one small habit to break.
Okay.
And then put these principles into practice. Make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
Got it.
Play around with habit stacking, temptation bundling, environment design, tracking.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate your wins, learn from your setbacks, and most importantly, be patient.
Yes, because real change takes time.
It does.
But with consistent effort, even the smallest actions can lead to really remarkable results.
Absolutely.
So, to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you the tools and the inspiration to start building those atomic habits that will lead you to a more fulfilling and successful life.
Yes. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.